I took an oath to protect all working class people. When we're talking about the history of the civil rights movement in our country, Palestine was hand in hand. Palestine was always there. When we talk about the Black Panthers, my legal counsel working with Nelson Mandela, and then seeing Nelson Mandela's grandson go on the global Sumud, the flotilla, the history was always circling around me, and I just had to start to like connect the dots. I'm a trade unionist, I'm a Black man. I'm just playing my part in this whole resistance movement.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud. All about humanity, so this right here for everyone. Uplift, amplify, empower everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud.
Visit sumudpod.com to subscribe and connect with us on social media. You can also support our work by contributing monthly on the Support Us page. Even $10 a month helps us continue amplifying Palestinian voices and those in solidarity. Thank you.
On this episode of the Sumud podcast, we uplift, empower, and amplify the man that Jeff Bezos fears the most, Chris Smalls. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me, brother.
I appreciate you coming down to DC.
Yeah.
Before we went live, we talked about you possibly moving here. We need you in DC.
Wishful thinking, yeah.
Yeah, wishful thinking. Let's see if we can make it happen. Let me just read a little bit about you, if you don't mind. You founded the first worker-led union inside Amazon, and you won. You exposed the retaliation, stood your ground, and reshaped labor movement. You spoke before the Senate. You stood with workers and with Palestine. You were named one of Time's 100 most influential people. At one point, you had an aspiring rap career, but as your mom once told you, your voice was meant for something more. And as we all know, mama's always right. So shout out to mom.
Yeah, shout out to Mom Dukes.
Speaking about mom, talk about your early days, man. Growing up in New Jersey.
Yeah. Grew up in New Jersey, Hackensack, born in Passaic, New Jersey. And my mother, single Black mom at the time, raising two boys, and me being the oldest. Definitely watched my mom get up and really work her tail off, go to work, go to school, trying to keep a roof over our head to the best of her capabilities. And yeah, for me being the oldest, I had a lot of responsibilities at a younger age, but it helped shape the person who I am today. Definitely understanding that, I had to pretty much lean on my mom for my everyday basic needs, but also being able to grow up a little bit faster by being more responsible, understanding that my father being incarcerated is something that can affect me long term if I didn't understand that I had to try to avoid that. And as a young Black man, I could say that was unavoidable. Being subjected to systemic racism, just growing up as a Black man in America. I definitely experienced that, and also the fact that as a kid, I had to go visit my father, and in every major prison in the tri-state area since I was born, and that really opened my eyes as I grew up. I definitely would say to myself, if I ever have kids, which I do now, I don't want them to have to be subjected to that, going to prisons and visiting their father behind bars. Can't say that I'm doing a good job, because I definitely been there a few times, but for good reasons.
Yeah. And I think you've been arrested a few times in the past couple of years, but for good reason, for standing up against Amazon and other things like that. Yeah, I mean, we could go on about the system, but at the end of the day, the system is just against most of us, right? And specifically now, you're seeing it. I'm sure when you're walking around, you'll see ICE or you'll see the National Guard in the DC area.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah. So what was your world like after high school?
Oh, man. I jumped ship at 18. I left my house and went to college in Florida, actually. I went all the way down south to Florida Atlantic University, But I started at Indian River State College, and then I transferred in. Only lasted about 2 semesters in Florida because Bush was the president, and I couldn't survive down there. It was just a lot going on. That was the first time I really experienced blatant racism, seeing Confederate flags and, people flipping the bird at me and my, black and brown friends. So Florida definitely just wasn't home for me. So I got homesick really quick, and I came back up top to New York City. I transferred to the Institute of Audio Research, right downtown. It used to be next to NYU, and I would commute into the city every day and go to college there. But for those who don't know, Institute of Audio Research was like a trade school for sound engineering. So it wasn't really what I really wanted to do in life. I wanted to be the rapper. I didn't want to be a producer. So I went there to network more so than to learn the skill set. I ended up meeting my producer, meeting some really good engineers, and then I started, working on my music.
Did you put out any albums or anything like that, or any records?
I never put out an album. I put out a mixtape. I had a mixtape release party back in 2009. Everybody was invited. At this is, before Instagram days, before, Twitter days. Twitter and stuff was up and coming. Instagram was up and coming, but this was word of mouth. This was those times. So I tried to invite everybody, but ironically, nobody showed up. Or maybe 25, 30 people showed up. So it was a flop when I released my mixtape, which, it just it motivated me to go harder, which I did. I had a really eye-opening moment saying that it doesn't matter how cool I may dress or how popular I may be in my area. I had to think outside of the box, which I was able to do after that first flop. That's when I actually became what I would say is somewhat of an organizer. I knew I had to go meet and talk to more people face to face, which I did. And I was able to turn that around real quick. After my mixtape release party, the next couple of events I did, I was able to bring out hundreds, if not sometimes even 2,000 people at a time.
Yeah. So it wasn't a flop. It was a learning experience.
Yeah. It definitely was.
Did you have a like a stage name or anything like that, or did you just go by Chris?
I went by my name, Chris Smalls.
Okay.
That's why some folks, if they go down this rabbit hole, they'll find some of my old music and music videos and things like that. Unfortunately, I went cold turkey when I got married at a young age.
Yeah.
And I gave it all up, so I didn't pursue music for long enough for people to really get a buzz on me. But some of the biggest artists in the world, I was fortunate enough to be in their presence at the time.
You mentioned you got married at 22. You ended up having twins at that time, boy and a girl. Mm-hmm. I have twin daughters, so I feel your pain there a little bit. It's a pleasure. It's power, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
How did you adapt so quickly to becoming a father?
I quit. I quit music because that wasn't paying the bills. I had to make a decision, a financial decision for me and my household at the time. Making music as an independent artist, there's no money there. I would do these shows and events as an independent artist and charge people at the door, and every dollar that I made would go right back into the next event. So I was just breaking even.
Yeah.
So I couldn't sustain my household like that. So for me, giving up music completely to get a job, that's exactly what I did.
Jobs?
Yeah.
Home Depot was one of them?
Yeah.
You worked the graveyard shift, if I'm not mistaken, FedEx as well?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big pivot, man.
Yeah. I went right back to the warehouse, FedEx, Home Depot. I worked at MetLife Stadium. I was a stand manager there for 5 years. I used to work at what I think is called now People Ready, but it used to be called Labor Ready. And it was like this day-to-day honestly a hole in the wall where you would go in, they'll just assign you the worst job you could think of, and you know, it was like you'll be paid by the day or paid by that, you know, by the end of the week or whatever. And I did that for a number of years. And I also used to deliver furniture and things like that. I used to work for a company in the New York area called Party Rental. If anybody in New York see the trucks with the pink hippo, yeah, I used to do that as well.
So it's important to talk about this because people see you now and they just assume you've had somewhat of an easy life and, you know, you just became famous off Amazon. They have no idea what you've been through.
Nah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. I like to say I lived multiple lives. Now that I reflect back, you know, one point I was an athlete, one point I was an artist, one point, you know, I'm working odds and ends. One point I was married. I'm no longer married. You know, I got a divorce and back in 2018, and that was the same year I started working in Staten Island. It was the same year I went through my divorce, so it was really rough, rock bottom, if you could say, for me at that time. And, you know, once again, just show the perseverance that I have to overcome like every obstacle that's been thrown at me.
Yeah, for sure. So you ended up going to Amazon, I think in 2015. You had quite a successful tenure early on. I mean, you shot up pretty fast to manager or assistant manager?
Assistant manager, yeah. Yeah, my first year within my first year.
How did you do that? What was that environment like?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, working all of these odds and ends jobs, warehouse jobs, since I was 16, being a worker, I had a lot of skill sets. Like I learned how to do a lot of different skills, from working machinery to, you know, just heavy lifting. I always like to work with my hands. So when I got to Amazon, it was like a piece of cake for me. It was, you know, they were like, oh, productivity. You know, I used to be a teamster working in a grocery distribution warehouse before Amazon. And that job was probably the most physical job outside of FedEx that I had to endure. And the productivity there was way harder than what Amazon wanted, you know, and it's manual labor. Amazon has a lot of automated machinery. So with the automated machinery, when they saw my numbers, they were like, oh, he's doing 4 or 5 times the amount that's required. And so my general manager at the time, he noticed how hard of a worker I was, and, you know, he promoted me for it, you know, and you know, I have the respect for him. He was a black man. His name was Chris as well. And, yeah, he not only promoted myself, but he promoted half of the building internally instead of going externally, which I thought was a really big deal. So me and all my boys got promoted at the same time. It was good to see a lot of black and brown folks being able to have that opportunity.
At what point did you realize the whole thing was a scam and you're just part of a larger system?
Well, when I got into the position of an assistant manager and saw how the numbers were being used, how each person contributes to the system, I learned that real quick. But also, when they got rid of him, you know, he went to another building and they brought in another management, and the whole building's culture changed. It became stressful. It became just all work, no fun. And then I saw a lot of favoritism. As an assistant manager, you're still an hourly associate. And to become a salaried manager, you have to either one or two things. You can move up internally, you know, it only takes 2 years from entry level to apply to be a salaried manager, or externally, they will go hire people from college campuses. And what I saw over the years, they'll bring in these college kids and with no work experience. They didn't care what degree you had. And I would be the one to train them. And that wasn't making any sense. It's like, okay, I'm training all of my bosses. When am I going to be in that position? And I would apply and apply and apply. And I had all the skill sets. I had the best numbers, the best records. And 50 times I applied to be a salary manager and was only interviewed twice over my 5-year tenure there. And I saw how one of my white counterparts, who was only in the same position for 6 months, after me being in that position for 4.5 years, he was promoted right over me. And when I saw that, that was 2019, right before the pandemic. So that was like the icing on the cake for me. It's like, there's something not right here. Systemic racism within the company as well.
You don't seem like you're afraid to call things out. Did you call it out right away?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Their response was even more eye-opening. Of course, I went to my direct manager and I said, hey, look, man, like, why am I not being interviewed for a position? I have the best records. And he also escalated it to his higher-ups. And the email that we got back that I remember, it says something along the lines like, Chris has a history of escalating things. And I was like, what the hell are they talking about? I've done nothing but been a good employee for 4.5, 5 years. And then they said I had a history of escalating things. So I knew right then and there that my time at Amazon was coming to an end. Whether they were going to fire me, that wasn't going to be the case. I was going to always leave on my own accord. I was too good of an employee, but I just didn't know when I was going to make that exit until COVID-19 hit.
Talk about the environment a little bit more, because if I remember hearing, you would tell new employees, if you have a gym membership, quit. You're not going to go to the gym.
Yeah.
People, when they get fired, they wouldn't be told that they were fired in person. It would be through an email or some sort of automated system.
Yeah.
This is a whole other world that people don't realize in Amazon. Can you just describe the environment a little bit more?
Yeah. I opened up 3 warehouses, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Every warehouse that I opened up, minimum 4,000 or 5,000 workers. JFK being the biggest one, over 8,000 workers. Every warehouse is within 20 miles or less of the lowest impoverished neighborhoods. So they hire directly from what I like to say, the hood. Every building is strategically set up to exploit the lowest impoverished neighborhoods. They're over 1 million square feet, so the size of 14 NFL football fields. And you're on your feet for 10 to 12 hours. You may have a 30-minute lunch and a 15-minute break, or 2 15-minute breaks, but other than that, you're on your feet. And the way it's set up in my department, it used to be like solitary confinement, because you're in a station and you have to just do repetitive work. You can't really stray away from that because you're being calculated by the second. I used to tell them, my new hires, if you have a gym membership, cancel it, because you're doing 12 hours of calisthenics. And you must eat, sleep, and repeat those 3 things. And if you go outside of that, you won't last. And I've seen it over the years, whether you're young or old, Amazon will find a way to burn you out.
It's just another form of prison, it seems. Is that fair?
I would say also slavery. It's slavery, fast forward 400 years. The same productivity system that was used to pick cotton is the same system that Amazon used to pick items.
Damn.
That was my job title at Amazon. I was a picker. They say warehouse associate, but their department is called pick. And we used to be called pickers. And we're doing the same thing as what they did in the cotton fields. When people order items from Amazon, somebody is picking that item for it to be packed and shipped out.
And they're actually called pickers.
They're called pickers.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. How come nobody knows this? How come it's not out there more?
Well, Amazon has billions of dollars. So as you know, their PR campaigns, you see all of their commercials there. Everybody smiling, everybody happy, those paid actors. And yes, out of sight, out of mind. These warehouses are far out. Nobody really notices them. And it's by design. They know, but bad controversy uh, from my own story, my own experience, is something that they always combat. So you wouldn't hear about it.
But they lost with you. So they lost big time with you.
Yeah. I mean, I lost my job, but I cost them $4 billion.
Yeah, right on. So let's talk about it. COVID happens. There's an issue with one of your colleagues who was sick, and I think you reported it or something like that.
Right.
Can you just, for the audience, they know that you led the union part of Amazon and kind of getting that together, but not many people really understood why. So could you talk through what happened there?
Right. 2020, like most people remember, the pandemic affected everybody, and Amazon was deemed essential workers. We were deemed by Jeff Bezos, who was still the CEO at the time.
Did you ever meet him, by the way?
No, but I've been on the phone with him.
Okay. Okay. I will talk more about that.
Yeah, we'll get there. So yeah, 2020, the pandemic's happening. People were afraid. New York City becomes the epicenter of the world.
Yeah.
People were dying every 15 minutes. In New York City at one point. We're going to work. I'm the only car on the highway driving to work, and I'm like, this is insane. We're not essential to anything. The items that we were picking were not essential items. And yeah, workers were coming to work sick, undiagnosed. There's no testing at the time. There's no vaccine. There's no PPE being provided, and very minimum guidance from the company. The company was saying, oh, if you don't feel well, just stay home, unpaid, and we won't reprimand you for that. And I'm like, well, that's not a solution. People need their money. They're going to come to work, whether they're sick or not. Plenty of people do that all the time. They'll pop some pills, go to work.
Yep.
So I tried to escalate things internally, but then it hit home when my partner, my colleague, who I work hand in hand, she was really, really visible sick, and I seen it. I came in, and I said, you need to go home. Like, her face was flushed. She had a mask on, thankfully, but she was really just sluggish. So I knew something was wrong. I said, you got to go home. Sent her home. She got tested, came back positive. I immediately sprinted to the management saying, hey, look, this supervisor, assistant manager, has been around hundreds of workers 4 days prior, because we work off each other. I'm like, she's been around for weeks, sick. We need to close this building down immediately. Oh, no, well, don't worry about it, Chris. We're going to keep everybody 6 feet apart. I'm like, that's not going to work. It's already in the building. What are you talking about? Oh, yeah. So they kept brushing me off. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to work anymore myself. So what I did was, me and some of my workers that work in my department, Derek Palmer, we decided that we're going to clock out and just go to the building every morning, sit in the cafeteria, and tell as many workers the truth for the entire week. And we did that. And then the last day of the week, they only quarantined me and nobody else. So I said, hey, how you going to quarantine just me? And I'm telling you that she's been around hundreds, if not thousands of workers in this building. So I knew they were using that as a way to silence me and stop me from organizing, which I wasn't really trying to organize into any type of entity or union. It was just trying to shut the building down for safety reasons.
Yeah.
So they took it as, he's working with some union, or he's trying to organize, and they try to retaliate by quarantining me. I broke that quarantine and I led a walkout on March 30th, 2020. And 2 hours after that walkout, they fired me.
And they fired you for what specifically?
They're saying that I violated the social distancing policy, and I'm saying, well, that's insane, because as an assistant manager, whatever policies that's being implemented, I need to know them firsthand so I can relay those policies to the workers. We never saw that policy.
Did you stage a walkout before you were fired, or did you get fired and then orchestrate?
Yeah,
the
no, I
walkout?
staged it before.
Okay.
I was fired the same day.
Same day. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Got it. And that walkout that you did, how many people walked out with you?
You know what's funny? Well, I didn't walk out with anybody because I was quarantined, quote unquote. But what I did was understood that I needed to get attention. And every major media outlet that I tried to tell that we were doing this walkout, only one article came out, which was the New York Post. And the New York Post journalist at the time, you could tell, I could tell he wasn't really trying to write the story unless it was going to be controversial. So I exaggerated. It's like, how many people are going to walk out? I said, let's say 200. And then his eyes got big. Like, oh my God, 200 workers. Not realizing it's like 8,000 workers.
Yeah.
I'm like, so okay, we got a headline. So what people don't know about Amazon is it's a private owned company. So cameras, media, if you're a non-employee, you're not allowed on property. You got to stay outside of the gated area if they have one. I knew that from working there over the years. So I knew cameras are only going to be able to film from afar. And one thing about being at Amazon, like I mentioned, you're in solitary confinement. You go in at sundown, you come out at sundown. And the only time workers go outside is during a nice sunny day or a nice spring day, because that's our 30 minutes of eating lunch and we getting outside of the building that has no windows.
Right.
So March 30th was like it's like almost the first day of spring that year, 60-something degrees. I said, let me plan this walkout for 12 o'clock, lunchtime. Because at 12 o'clock, workers are going to go outside and eat their lunch. And the media was blowing up my phone when the day of, because they were like, it's 12 o'clock and nobody's here. And I'm like panicking because I'm driving to the building and I see helicopters, a whole roll of media trucks and cameras, and there's no workers outside. But I said, they don't know this building's 14 NFL football fields. Give them about 5 minutes. And at 12:05, the doors open up and they just see hundreds of workers coming outside. So the workers are coming out. They're confused because they see all these cameras. But I did have a small group of workers that had signs that were inside as well, organizing while I was quarantined. So people, 2 and 2 together, 1 + 1 is 2, they walked directly over there and started telling the media what is going on in the building. And it made it such a powerful moment that it did look like it was a walkout, but it really was the biggest chess move that I can think of.
That's brilliant, man. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So the whole thing was just one big game to get the attention, and it worked. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess they didn't know how much of a chess player I was.
They picked a fight with the wrong person, clearly.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, did you learn some of this, like when you were organizing your mixtapes and getting the crowd together and figuring out creative ways to do that? Did you apply some of that over here?
Yeah. The same skill sets. Me being a people's person, talking to people. I was already popular in the building.
Yeah.
For good reason. I was, the way you see me now is how I used to go to work.
Yeah.
Flashy, dripped out. A lot of people really respected me, and those skill sets of talking to people, getting to know them on a personal level, getting to really spend more time with them than I do with my kids.
Yeah.
We're talking 60, 70 hours a week. These people were my extended family.
Yeah.
So the skill sets that we used to organize the walkout was, when I was in quarantine, I had a group on Instagram of workers at the building, because we didn't know anything. We wasn't using no Signal, none of that stuff.
Yeah.
We were using Instagram group chats to organize these workers. And what I did was I knew people in every department. So I told the cleaning crew that we're going to pass some notes out in the bathrooms, because I know management wasn't really going to go in those bathrooms. We're going to have notes saying walk out Monday at 12 o'clock. Please don't throw those away. And they did. They helped, not throw away our notes. People were talking about it more word of mouth. So it was kind of like under the radar. But then when that article in the New York Post came out, the gig was up. They're like, oh, Chris, you're going to plan the walkout. So, Amazon was preparing themselves to retaliate against me the whole time.
There was a leaked memo where an Amazon exec called you not smart or articulate. And I believe Jeff Bezos was involved in that memo or in a meeting where that was stated.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, he was present.
The undertone of the whole message, and when I read it was just pure racism.
Right.
They were just coming at you no matter what with various tropes and stereotypes.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you read that or heard that?
I remember the day clearly because the same day it came out, it didn't come out by the New York Times. It came out from another outlet. I want to say, I think it was Vice News who leaked it.
Yeah.
I was doing an interview with the New York Times, and one of my legal counsels called me, and they were like pissed. They were like, this is outrageous. Did you see this? And I was confused because I'm reading it. He sent it to me, and I'm reading it, not knowing that they're talking about me. And I'm like, what is this? It says signed by Jeff Bezos. I'm like, what is this? He's like, Chris, they're trying to smear you. I'm like, oh. So for that, once I realized what it was, I said, you gonna come after me now? It was definitely an infuriating moment, but also motivating, because I knew not only was it racially charged, but that stigma of me being not smart or articulate. I'm like, well, you're right. He don't know who I am. I've been a modeled employee for your company for 5 years, trained thousands of employees, hundreds of upper management. They had no idea who I was. And that's what, motivated me to continue, advocating for workers, even though I was no longer an employee.
Yeah, they messed around with the wrong person. I just met you a few times, obviously, but you're cerebral. You could tell. You're always monitoring, processing, evaluating. You're reading a room constantly. So I think maybe they just really missed the mark on understanding who you are and what you're going to bring to the table.
They really didn't care. I think it's the same corporate playbook that's been used for decades in this country.
That playbook didn't have Chris Smalls in it, though. That's the problem. It didn't teach him how to deal with you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's corporate playbook that they use on black and brown or people just at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah.
And it backfired this time.
You did sue them for retaliation, but that didn't go anywhere. The judge dismissed that. Is that correct?
Yeah, Letitia James, she took my case on. Letitia James is the New York State Attorney General. She still is. And she took my case on. It didn't go anywhere. I didn't really believe that I was going to get justice through the legal system anyway. But I tried to file a class action lawsuit. Once again, it was never about me as an individual. It was about everybody. So I filed a class action lawsuit. It got nowhere.
Did you ever try to go back after them again, or did we just?
Yeah, I tried the civil suit as well. That didn't go anywhere. Once again, at the time, Trump was still in office. A lot of these federal judges are Trump appointees, and there's two different justice systems, put it like that. I guess it's not built for workers, and especially black and brown workers.
Yeah. Did they try to offer you hush money? Just like take this amount, go away, don't do anything else at any point?
No. I mean, no. I mean, I wouldn't have took that anyway. It wasn't about the money for me. It was about saving lives.
Yeah.
It was about, the fact that this $1 trillion company dropped the ball and they need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter whether they offered money or not. I was never going to take that. I always wanted to make sure that whatever happened to me doesn't happen to anybody else.
Right. So you made a decision to push for the group to be unionized. How did you learn how to organize that whole process and get it together? Who did you work with? Did you grab labor attorneys, for example, to help you out?
I
Or,
wish.
I can imagine you going to the library and studying these things for hours. What did you do?
No, I was already in the thick of it. So what I did was I started my own nonprofit organization called the Congress of Essential Workers, TCOEW. And before Amazon Labor Union, we spent the whole year protesting at every Jeff Bezos mansion in America, from New York City to Washington to Seattle to Beverly Hills.
You want to go there today? I think his house in DC. We'll go.
Yeah, we'll walk around there. And these protests were very powerful because we're talking 2020 era. Workers are frustrated in many different sectors. And the Congress of Essential Workers, my nonprofit, was inviting all of these workers. So our protests will include Starbucks workers, Trader Joe's, Apple workers, gig workers, social injustice, environmental, women's rights, all types of different organizations will help demonstrate in front of Jeff Bezos' mansion. Because it wasn't just about Amazon workers, it was about the whole entire system of billionaires, corporations, exploiting workers during the most deadliest time in modern times, and calling that all out. And we got a lot of attention for a year. I became like this poster child for media. We were getting articles left and right. Every protest was getting coverage. But we needed something that was going to be more concrete. So fast forward a year later, after I was fired, 2021, that's when we started the campaign for the Amazon Labor Union.
And you got it done. First ever. If I got the number right, 4.3 million was spent against you.
Oh, way more than that.
More than that?
Way more than that. I want to say minimum like 20 plus mil.
20 plus mil.
Yeah.
And you still beat them.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that tell our youth? What does that tell the next generation?
One of my favorite quotes that I always say is, no amount of money in the world can amount to the power of people when we come together.
Yeah.
And we proved it. Amazon spent millions, 4.2, whatever it is that they're reporting, way much more than that. Just think about productivity that we stopped cost them millions of dollars. They put our workers in over 3,000 captive audiences, meaning that every single day, for 1 hour a day, they had to stop productivity to try to union bust and put people in the classroom setting. So the millions of dollars that they lost, you can't really calculate on it.
I'm sure they were playing dirty a lot.
Yeah. The NYPD, they took out ads on Facebook and Instagram. They were paying media companies. They were paying union busters $10,000 a day. And Amazon's 24/7. They don't close down anytime unless it's a major holiday. So just imagine paying a number. They had hundreds of union busters, anywhere between $3,000 to $10,000 a day. So the millions of dollars they use, you can't really put a number on it.
But I just given it to the employees. They could have. I mean, that's just crazy.
Right.
That's just crazy.
Right.
By the way, I have a lot of respect for you. I mean, you really do what you want to do. I mean, this is like mad props. You spoke at the Senate.
Yeah.
No suit, no tie, no nothing. You came as you. I was like, damn. This dude does not care.
Yeah. Bernie Sanders invited me, and he told me, he was like, you might have to change your appearance. And I said, yo, Bernie, hey, listen, bro. I'm not that one. I'm not changing nothing. I represent where I come from. And the same thing when I went to the White House, it was the same day, I believe, actually. So it's ironic that that they would try to even bring that up as a thing. My appearance. I saw a lot of naysayers. Oh, he's disrespecting the White House or the Senate. And it's like, well, the White House played into that, because when I got out of the Senate, there was a slew of media there. And one of them in particular was GQ magazine. So you're telling me that I need to wear a suit and tie, but then I'm on GQ magazine with the Eat the Rich jacket on. So you guys wanted to use the publicity as well. And that's a story that people don't realize, that I ended up on the Shade Room. For those who don't know, is a black and brown media that, is real controversial, but the Shade Room was at the White House to interview me because they wanted to talk to certain audiences, but at the same time tell me that I should wear a suit and tie or wear this and that. It's ironic, but I come as is, just like church.
Yeah, no, right on. I would have loved to see Bernie's face when he told him, nah, I'm not changing. Sorry. Yeah. So you met Biden and you met Harris. What was that experience like? Did you have your radar on for any of the BS from these politicians? Yeah.
Of course. I mean, I wasn't excited as everybody else in the room. I was more trying to stand on business and hold Jeff Bezos accountable. That's the video they'll never show the public, is that I didn't go in there for photo ops. I went in there with the representation of workers and trying to understand what is the plan to protect workers and how are you going to hold billionaires accountable. And yeah, when I met Kamala, it was really no dialogue. There was nothing. There was no substance. And they gave me a policy packet. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't care about no policy. I'm not reading all of that. Free Palestine,
Yeah.
That was that moment. It's like, I'm not reading any of that. I need your words coming from your mouth to reassure me that you guys have our backs as activists, as working class citizens, as Americans. And I didn't get any of that. Instead, once again, what you see online, what they pushed out there was the Amazon troublemaker, Joe Biden being the most pro-labor union president after shaking my hand. He was on the record for saying, Amazon, we're coming for you. And then he had to retract that. So it was just performative for them. And that's something that I was never on board with.
Yeah. Let me ask you, you became president of the union, but I have to imagine that people did try to join and sabotage you and the efforts even after the fact. Did you see a lot of that? A lot of people turned their back on you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, the good, the bad, and ugly comes with the territory. And, I was the president for 3 years. I never had any intention on being one of these lifetime presidents. I think people have the misperception when they see somebody like me. They think like, oh yeah, all he cares about is, himself, or he cares about having power or something like that. And nobody ever asked me like, what do you want to do as an individual? What do you want to do with your union, and what do you want to do beyond your union work? And instead of people asking that question, they took it upon themselves to try to divide people. And a lot of it was racially charged, me being a black man. It was easy for people to say, oh yeah, look at him. He looks like a rapper. He looks like a celebrity. He doesn't care about the people. Whatever rumors they would say, he's taking money. He's doing this. He's paid off. It's unfortunate, but it's all untrue.
Yeah.
And I realized that really early on that when they said, a lot of people would say they're going to come for you. I always used to hear that, like, they're going to come for you. And I'm like, who's the they? And I realized real quick who the they are. The they could be the people right next to you. They could be the people in your circle.
Yeah. They
could be the people, obviously, on the other side.
Yeah.
And, sometimes in this movement, it takes you going through those trials and tribulations to understand what mistakes not to make in the future.
Yeah.
And my union has internal woes like every other union in this country. The difference is we were under a microscope.
Yeah.
You know, we just took on a $1 trillion company and won.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching us. And the expectations that they had for me and my union was ridiculous. My union don't pay dues. We don't have no dues paying members. We haven't been established for 100 years like the rest of these unions.
Yeah.
We took on a $1 trillion company with endless amount of money to even buy people off. And people expected that to be perfect
Right.
the first time around. I'm like, that's insane. There was some things that came out saying that if we lost, that we were going to set back the labor movement. I said, wow.
Yeah.
The labor movement that's already in single digits in union density, the Amazon labor union is going to set it back. That is ridiculous. So I think people put a lot of expectations on me and my union, not understanding the dynamics of what it is to take on powerful entities and go through growing pains collectively. Instead, people want to try to reform something that's new, and you can't really do that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So I want to pivot to Palestine because I know that your popularity, let's just say with the Democrats, was like way up here because of what you did with Amazon for many of them, right?
Yeah.
The second you said Palestine, I think you lost a lot of followers. A lot of people said, I was with you there. I can't be with you here. When did you learn about Palestine and why do you care about it?
I'll go back to my childhood again. My mom is a survivor, really, of 9/11.
Mhm.
She worked in New York City. Still works in New York City till this day. And I was in middle school when 9/11 happened. And I'll never forget that day, probably one of the scariest days because there's no cell phones. There's landlines back then.
Mm.
And imagine you're in school and you're being called to the office and you watch the towers go to the ground. You're a kid and they're telling you to call your mother right now because they're looking through their directory and seeing all the kids who have parents who work in New York City.
Wow.
I'm calling my mom's office and she had a direct line, you know, she would pick up and it was nothing but dial tone. My mom didn't get home that night until midnight. So imagine you don't even know if your mom's alive, your parents alive. As a kid, the media was trying to obviously, put out a lot of Islamophobia, you know, Muslims are terrorists. I remember how traveling changed. I used to fly to Florida to see my grandparents.
Yeah.
And how when I was a kid, you were able to go meet the captain of the planes. As a kid, they give you little wings, and the setting of airport was very relaxing.
Yeah.
After 9/11, all of that changed. Things were locked down. You couldn't even see the captain. Doors closed. The media put out Islamophobia, and I could not understand that because I look in my community. We grew up in a very diverse community. I'm like, these are our neighbors. These are our loved ones. These are our friends, family. Now they're saying that this demographic is terrorists. And I remember people, especially Muslims, Arabics, there was a point in time where people were just giving them, you know, upside down looks. And I didn't understand that as a kid until one summer. My teacher probably wasn't supposed to do this at all. But in summer school, I was in summer school because I wasn't really that good of a student at sometimes. But anyway, I ended up in summer school, and my teacher said, you know what, we're not going to, it's the last week or whatever. He's like, we're going to watch this documentary called Loose Change, which is like a conspiracy doc, you know, and I'm like, loose change. And me, I always like a sponge. I like to learn new things. Yeah. And that right there opened up my eyes that the government and the media is lying to us. Like, oh, shoot. Like, okay. So it's all BS. So I didn't really learn about Palestine, but I learned about how the government works. Fast forward to before October 7th, even a year before, I was fortunate enough, random for me, I was on a panel discussion with Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, prominent figure in Palestine. Yep. We did a panel discussion a year before October 7th at Concordia University in Montreal. And I watched this man lay out the history beautifully. After that discussion, he heard my story, I heard his story. We spoke, and he invited me to Jerusalem. He gave me his card. I want you to come to Palestine. I want to work with you in the future. That never happened because fast forward October 7th, I learned from him. I started doing my research, my homework, and then I got my passport, and I was able to travel. Well, actually, I already had my passport, but I was able to travel even more so at the time. And when I went to Greece one year, I learned that a lot of trade unions in Greece and Turkey and also a lot of trade unions in the Middle East, they always been a part of the first, you could say humanitarian organizations from the first Nakba. Mm-hmm. That trade unions was a part of the resistance. And that history is still alive till this day. And I met some trade unionists, some presidents from Palestine. My sister, Susan Salam, who's the president of the Women's Trade Union in Jerusalem. And when I would learn that this history is very much alive and well, I wanted to be a part and contribute to that. So I didn't stop. I just started learning as I went in my journey, but also starting to apply it on the ground as well.
Did you ever see the treatment of Palestinians up close and personal?
Prior to my travels, I didn't know as much as I know now. And like I said, I was a sponge, so I'm still a sponge. I still try to learn every day. And it was a no-brainer for me because as a trade unionist, and especially as a Black man, I knew that I took an oath to protect all working class people. And when we're talking about the history of the civil rights movement in our country, Palestine was hand in hand when it came to the Black Panthers and putting out news articles with that community. Palestine was always there. When we talk about Nelson Mandela, who I'm fortunate enough, my legal counsel, she worked on Nelson Mandela's presidential campaign.
Oh, wow.
So the history was always circling around me. Yeah. And I just had to start to connect the dots and say, oh, wow, they used to work with the Black Panthers. I would listen to Angela Davis talk about that moment. Or, like I said, my legal counsel, working with Nelson Mandela, and then seeing Nelson Mandela's grandson go on the global Sumud, the flotilla afterwards. I'm just playing my part in this whole, resistance movement, is that I'm a trade unionist, I'm a Black man, and to connect the dots, I have to put myself in uncomfortable situations and be on the forefront of whatever comes my way.
When did you realize that the phrase "Free Palestine" is the most dangerous phrase in the United States, if not the world? When did it hit you?
Oh, man. October 7th, I was in Berlin, Germany. And Free Palestine is even worse than it is in the U.S. Over there, you can't say Free Palestine till this day. And I seen with my own two eyes how the Nazi police in Germany tore down the flags. Because for those who don't know, there's a large Palestinian diaspora there.
Yep.
30,000, 40,000, something like that. And they have their own community. And I was there. Me and my comrades from the Intifada movement, they invited me over. We spent the whole day walking around, and then all of a sudden, it changed overnight. The police set up paddy wagon vans, set up chairs and tables, arrested random Palestinians, tore down every single flag. And anybody at every protest that I went to who said Free Palestine was arrested violently. I took a 1-minute video that is still on my Instagram, shared it, lost 10,000 followers. So that's when I realized how dangerous it was to say Free Palestine. Unfortunately, it wasn't that long ago, but it was a familiar feeling.
Yeah.
Because when I took on Amazon, people didn't believe that we would even be successful. And when I talked about Palestine, people thought that that'd be the end of my advocacy and my platform.
They didn't know you were just getting started.
They thought that, yeah, that was going to end my platform.
You think they would learn their lesson by now, all these naysayers?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say I am undefeated, but it's not just me. It's me and my entire community. We haven't took no losses. You know, there's always setbacks. But I say this, it's only a loss if you give up.
Yeah. You made the decision to go on a flotilla to break the siege, which was extremely courageous of you. I got to ask, what did your family say while you were making that decision? Did you tell them?
No.
You didn't tell them?
They found out, while I was already en route.
Oh,
and for good reasons. You know, I couldn't tell my mom. She would have never allowed me. Well, I would have did it anyway, but it would have been a whole episode. So I didn't tell my union. I didn't tell my closest friends. I didn't tell anybody but my kids.
You told your kids?
I told my kids.
Oh, wow.
Because
that could have been it.
Could have been the last time they saw me.
And what did your kids say?
At the time, you know, once again, I told them in a way that I didn't want to scare them too much.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I told them in a way where I want them to know that I love them, that everything that I'm doing is for them. And yeah, I left it at that. I want them to understand what their dad is doing, but also not be worried.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I left it at very vague, but also just expressing how much I love them, just in case anything was to happen to me.
Yeah. It must have been a difficult conversation within to hold back a little bit too, and not tell them the whole story to protect them.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I thought about that a lot while I was in prison, you know, because there was no outside communication.
Yeah.
And I know it had to be a shock for them because I'm all over Instagram. They have Instagram, they're all over social media, and they're seeing, I can only imagine what they were seeing about what happened to me and me being in prison. So, you know, I'm glad to know that they handled it pretty well.
Can you describe the experience of actually being on the flotilla on your way there? I mean, I don't really think people really understand the process and the feeling. Where did you sleep? How did you sleep? Did you sleep?
Man.
Did you eat?
Oh man. Yeah, so the overall experience was amazing, you know, and I say that in a good and bad way as well, because the good thing is that I went with a crew, 21 of us, 19 activists, 2 journalists. The crew, 7 Americans, very family oriented. The crew had my back. I had their back. I felt safe with the crew. We all knew our assignments. We all picked up for one another's morale, whatever it was, we were there for each other. So it was, that was a beautiful experience with the crew alone, is that everybody had one common goal, was to break the siege, and we were determined to do that no matter what. Nothing was straying us from that. The physical aspect of it was a major adjustment for me because, for one, I ain't getting on no water. I ain't going on no cruise ships. I don't do none of that. I mean, I'm a good swimmer, and I'm a Cancer, so I'm a water sign, if that makes any difference. But we're talking about the open water, the deadliest graveyard in the world.
Yeah.
The Mediterranean Sea, where people die every day. Refugees die every day over there. And for me to make a decision to be on this open water on a boat that was built in 1968, that alone was a challenge. And yeah, talk about sleeping. I slept on a wood floor that entire time. Had like maybe 3 inches, 4 inches of foam. That was my bed, little square block. Most of the time I didn't sleep. You're right. I was up in the middle of the night, keeping my eyes open like an owl, just trying to make sure that, you know, I felt like I had to be somewhat of a protector. Even though I had no idea what I was protecting, because this is my first flotilla, but just the natural leadership in myself, I tried to make sure that the crew, we especially had a lot of women, I wanted to make sure that the women felt protected, especially the elderly. Our cook, me and her bonded right away. She was like my grandmother, still is. I was always in the kitchen helping her clean, whatever, did our daily chores. And that bond was great. The sleeping conditions was not so great, but as we got closer to Gaza, we began our hunger strike. And that's when it really started to hit, like, this is about to come to a head. So prepare myself mentally and physically prior to going to prison. I already knew my fate. I knew that if we were to be kidnapped, that I'm going to elect to go to prison so that I can get the full experience. And I knew that that was a high risk as a black man, and I did it anyway.
You did it anyway. So when they attacked the boat, or the flotilla rather, what was your immediate reaction?
Well, I thought in my head prior, I'm like, well, if they don't shoot me right away, then I have a good chance of surviving. And that was a real thing. Are they going to come in guns a-blazing like they did in 2010 when they killed 10 activists? Are they going to come directly for me because I'm black?
Did anybody have that talk with you? I mean, you're dealing with.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah.
We had extensive training, and I was considered amongst the high risk vulnerability, and being most vulnerable. But yeah, I said, okay, if I survive the first encounter, then I don't think they're gonna kill me. But actually, the IOF is the least of our worries at that time. When we got on land, that's when their whole attitude towards us changed. The IOF was trying to get propaganda.
Yeah,
like
I saw they were passing out food and or stuff like that.
Right, they tried, but they couldn't do that with us. We killed that narrative with the hunger strike.
Okay, gotcha.
So they even announced it before they jumped on our boat. They were like, we understand you're on a hunger strike. We understand. So I'm like, oh, they've been watching our, media, social media. So they knew that we were on a hunger strike, and they still brought the coolers full of sandwiches and water.
Yeah.
And the entire night, we sat with them for 12 hours. The entire night, they tried to force this food and water with their camera crew. They had a camera crew, which was a cell phone.
Yeah.
They had one guy with a cell phone, and they had 2 female IOF soldiers, commandos, trying to sweet talk the women. Oh, you need this. Oh, you need, and we were refusing it. And they were frustrated. They were mad because they couldn't get any propaganda. If people pay attention, they will notice that there's no propaganda for the Hundella from the IOF. Remember with Greta, the one before and after.
Yep.
There's so many articles, so many pictures, videos, etc., statements. But with the Hundella, with our crew and our mission, hardly anything was said. Hardly anything was put out from them till this day. And nobody really asked why. I know why. Because they couldn't do no propaganda. And the assault that happened on land, to me, if those images and videos ever surface, I think people jaw would drop. Because I know what I went through. And even though what I went through was horrific and yeah, it was terrible, the images and videos, they I'm pretty sure they have some. There's a reason why they never made it to any media outlet on their side as well. Because there's no way they could combat whatever we have for them. The rebuttal to that.
Yeah, so the second you got to land, they beat you, if I'm not mistaken. They choked you. They kicked your legs, I think it was. Just for the audience, can you, if you're comfortable, of course.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I've done it 100 times. Yeah, so when we got to land, they were calling us off one by one. I was one of the last to get off the flotilla. And yeah, I tell people I was saying some things I needed to be said.
You were saying?
Yeah, me.
Oh, yeah?
I was talking
trash,
crazy. Yeah, I was pissed for good reason that they stopped this boat full of stuffed animals and humanitarian aid, number one. Number two, I was pissed because these were young 20-year-olds with big guns, weapons, thinking they're doing something notable. Yeah. So I was pissed on that because without those guns and weapons, and that's what I said to them, without those guns and weapons, they ain't, nothing. I said that to their face. It's like, this is my moment to speak up for Palestinians who can't. And I wasn't going to let it go in vain. I wasn't going to travel 7 days, 9 days on this flotilla for nothing, to be silent, to be quiet, to just peacefully be ushered away. Absolutely not. So I gave them a couple middle fingers. I told them, yeah, fuck Israel. I said, you ain't shit without guns and weapons from American taxpaying dollars. We pay for all of this. And I pointed at them one by one. I looked them in their faces and I said, you're cowards. And when we got off the boat, the immigration authorities, they tackled me. 7 of them. 3 on each side. They levitated me while one guy was pulling my chains and choking me.
It took 7 of them to come at you.
Yeah. And I didn't even resist because I'd had no strength and energy. I was already on a hunger strike. My body was pretty weak. It was really comical for me in my head now that I think about it because, they got all these dudes on top of me and carrying me off like an animal. And, once again, they threw me up against the wall, said some racist remarks. And there's this one guy who whispered in my ear, like, yo, I'm nothing like you. I'm nothing like your brother. I'm nothing. If I continue saying this, they're going to throw me to the ground. And I looked at him and I said, bro, I'm on a hunger strike. I don't even have the strength to fight you. But I said, I promise you. I said, if you 1v1 me right now, I'll beat your ass. But it's 7 of you, so you got it. And that's the truth. They have to come in groups because they're cowards. But one-on-one, they are peons.
Yeah. And this was definitely caught on film. So there's footage out there somewhere, most likely.
They had media out there, definitely at the ports. There's cameras at the immigration ports for sure. So there is some evidence of it. Will it ever come out? Probably not.
Are you comfortable with saying exactly what they said to you, those racist comments?
They said they're nothing like me, referring to my skin color.
Yeah.
They're nothing like me. We're not even close. We're not even the same. Talk about my bloodline, their bloodline. It's confirmation that they are a racist apartheid state. I don't understand their language, whether they were talking Hebrew or Yiddish or whatever it was, whatever dialect they were speaking, but I can tell by expressions. And there were times where I was isolated they were looking to the other room, looking at my crew members, looking at the women, and they were laughing in a very derogatory way, meaning that they were definitely saying some things that, you know, were racist and beyond that.
Yeah. You mentioned, I don't know the exact quote, but something to the effect of your experience as a black man in America didn't prepare you for what you experienced.
Oh, yeah. Well, I said this, as a black man in America, I never experienced the amount of hatred and racism and bigotry than I did in my 5 days in captivity. And that is a fact. Of course, I've been in handcuffs since I was 9 years old in America. Don't get me wrong. America has, you know, has its own problems embedded in its own system. But as a black man in America, the racism systemically, you kind of experience that as you progress in life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not blatant unless you live in certain parts of the country, of course.
Yeah.
You know,
Like close to the White House, yeah.
Right. And what I'm saying is, even in the New York area, is very tri-state areas, extremely diverse.
Yeah.
People from all over the world there. So as a black man, you're not going to experience racism on a day-to-day, is what I'm saying. Racism's there. It exists. It's systemic in different ways. A lot of it is masked. And a lot of these racists here in America, they're definitely cowards. They're not going to walk up to you and call you the N-word. They may say it behind their backs when you turn your back. But every person that I encountered over there, it resonated from them.
Yeah.
You could tell that they did not like you or Palestinians or any people of color, from the women to the men to the IOF to the immigration to the prison guards to even the exit when they dropped me off at the border of Jordan. Every person that I encountered, the amount of hatred that spewed from them was not even close to what I experienced here in America. Not even close.
Yeah.
And that says a lot.
They stripped you all naked too and took
Yeah.
away your clothing?
Twice.
Twice?
Yeah.
Obviously, these are sick individuals. Did they record these instances, do you think? Or do they have this footage or anything like that? Because these are,
I don't think so.
most of them are perverts, I think you're learning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they recorded the raids because they don't want to incriminate themselves even more than what, I don't know if they could even do that, but I guess they didn't want to have that type of evidence if that was to ever get out in whatever way. But
yeah,
everything they did was definitely by design from the top down, meaning that we got visited by the ward, like not just the ward of the prison, but the regional ward. And he spoke fluent English. He came in our cell one day. He had 12 guards behind him. And he was like talking to us with a calm tone, like, why did you guys come here? Like, we wasn't trying to come here, bro. What are you talking about? Oh, why are you guys not eating? Because they knew we were on a hunger strike. Oh, well, if you guys don't eat, we have to punish you. So 24/7 lockdown.
Yeah.
And then he was trying to be nice. He sat the food on the table, like, here, eat, guys. This is for you guys. It was very good cop, bad cop. But soon as he left, 5 minutes later, we got raided. So he's kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm going to act all calm and nice. But when I leave, I'm going to send these hounds in to humiliate y'all. And that's what it was. It was like they weren't doing it for evidence or doing it for video recordings. They did it to try to dehumanize us, humiliate us, make us feel like we're powerless and break us down psychologically. I think that's what it was. Psychological warfare. By keeping me in there longer than everybody else, they were specifically trying to target me. And yeah, once again, it failed.
Yeah, you were in there for 5 days? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's scary. Let me ask it this way. How does it feel to know that what you experienced was so horrific, yet still is not even close to what the Palestinians experience on a daily basis?
I think about it all the time because I can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine, but I can't.
Yeah.
And it's just devastating, honestly, when you do think about it and dwell on that. Is that for over 77 years, these people have been subjected to that type of abuse. It's really inhumane. And that's the reason why I continue to go so hard. Because I experienced firsthand a glimpse of what Palestinians have to go through.
Yeah.
And understanding that it's 100 times worse. There's no way that I can stop, because that would be a part of the complicity that everybody else is projecting out there.
Yeah. You mentioned something, and there's nuance there. You went to Jordan.
Yeah.
You didn't go to Tel Aviv.
Hell no.
Right? Everybody else, I believe, except for maybe a Palestinian, was it? Or was it?
Arab, Tunisia.
Tunisian.
Yeah. My brother Hatem, yeah. Me and Hatem, once again, we were the last to be released. We were dropped off at the border of Jordan, not taken to Tel Aviv to be deported. And that was a scary day because just imagine, basically, you got armed thugs, put you in the back of a van, don't tell you shit, don't tell you where you're going. You see the airport is 30 minutes away, and you're in a car for nearly 2 hours, and you're seeing signs for the desert, the Dead Sea. You're thinking they're going to take you and kill you.
Yeah.
Or they're going to take you to another prison. We had no idea until we got there that we were being taken to the border. That was the craziest thing. The way they released us, how they did it, and even when they had booked our flights, well, the difference is his embassy came and picked him up. So he was well taken care of. There was a point in time when me and Hatem had to split, and I'm just left there by myself, no cell phone, no communication, don't know where I'm at. And Hatem tried to get his embassy to take me, but they couldn't.
Mm.
So that's just more truth that our U.S. embassy failed its U.S. citizens right then and there. Everything from the very beginning to the very end, as I said before, is confirmation that they're racist. The flights that they had booked for me was like a 2-day layover. So I would have had to fly to Dubai. I've never been to Dubai before. But obviously with the UAE being Israel's biggest supporter, they wanted to punish me. The second layover was Germany.
Yeah.
So they wanted to fuck with me on the way out.
Yeah.
And made sure they made it miserable on the way home. Thankfully, when I did make contact with everybody, we changed my flights, and I went to Doha, and then I came here, well, to JFK, to New York.
So just to sort of wrap up the Palestine part of it really quick, what did your mom say to you?
When I got back?
Yeah.
Well, she was at the airport, so there's that moment, that viral moment where she gives me a hug and she's crying and stuff like that. Along with the hundreds of people that was there that day, I had no idea what I was walking into. That was a great moment. People I met over the years, people that travel from all parts of the country, from California, just to come for that 10 minutes. Once again, it really showed the impact that I had on people, and reminded myself, like, the greater good, why I'm doing this. Well, when I spoke to my mom privately, of course she had a mouth to say, like, don't you do that again, da-da-da. But honestly, her blood pressure was high, so I had to think about that, and I still do. I have to understand that my actions affect other people in physical ways, and also understanding that as a mother, it could be very worrisome when your child is doing. And I know as a parent, I'd be afraid as well if my kids was doing what I'm doing. So I have to just remind myself that, I can't put my mom in the hospital for my work. So the conversation was, it was scolding, but then also very loving and supporting. My mom supports everything that I'm doing, no matter what. She knows who she gave birth to, and she knows how I could be hard-headed and stubborn, but I have good intentions.
Yeah. All right. So just the last couple of things, if you don't mind. You got a big book coming out.
Yeah.
June 2026. Is that right?
Yeah, June 2nd,
June 2nd.
2026.
All right.
Yeah.
And it can be pre-ordered now, not on Amazon.
Yeah, don't
be-
order from Amazon. No.
Talk about your book, what it's about, and what your objectives are.
Yeah. I've been writing it for the past 3 years. It's called When the Revolution Comes, A Fight for the Working Class. It's coming out this year, finally. It's a memoir, so it goes back to my early days to present. Unfortunately, because I wrote it, finished it up pretty much over a year ago, I don't really touch on the Palestine too much in there. Actually, not really at all. But it gives people a glimpse of who I am as a person, as an individual, and how I got to where I'm at. But I made sure by choosing the picture that I chose on the book with me and the keffiyeh that it's a gateway for me to continue possibly writing another book in the future that will be more inclusive to the current things that I'm doing with Palestine and beyond. But mostly the book is about, just my upbringing, some of the trials and tribulations I went through in life. A lot of personal things is in the book. And I'm really excited because I think that if people are going to read my book and see a piece of themselves in my book, in my story, in my journey, people will be able to see a piece of themselves, whether it was losing a job or getting divorced or becoming an organizer, becoming an activist, finding out your true calling in life. I think people will resonate with that a lot.
Would you do me the honor of spitting some bars to wrap up the podcast?
Well, I would say this. Billionaires, they gotta go. Got the crowd screaming out, fuck Jeff Bezos. I'm right here with Dr. Ed on the Sumud podcast. Black Power, Free Palestine. We the talk of the hour. We will see a free Palestine within our lifetime.
Appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much.
No
That was
doubt.
amazing. Yeah. Thank you.
No doubt.
Thank you.
Listen, stay tuned, cause it's time for some mood.